On Monday morning, President Donald Trump did what a lot of us did. He awoke from his weekend-long turkey and gravy bender and fired up Twitter.com. He issued the following presidential proclamation. We should have a contest as to which of the networks, plus CNN and not including Fox, is the most dishonest, corrupt, and/or distorted in its political coverage of your favorite president, me. They are all bad. Winner to receive the fake news trophy.
Woo! Also, I love that he had to point out that, by the way,
Your favorite president,
me. There was a great meme because he pardoned the turkey like all the presidents do, and there's someone was sharing a meme that was like, "Hello, Mr. Turkey, are you gonna thank me for pardoning you?" Like the basketball player,
the ball kid.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Anyways, yeah, that tweet totally normal. Anyway, Trump's fixation on fake news has mainly concerned the ways that CNN and MSNBC don't lavish praise and encouragement on him every morning the way that Fox does with Fox and Friends. The problem isn't just TV news, it's also the print media. Luckily, there's still reporters out there who tell the truth. Like conservative writer Rich Lowry, editor of conservative magazine National Review, who a few weeks back wrote an article in the New York Post that Trump enjoyed so much that he mailed Lowry this. The article, torn from Trump's briefing binder, with the handwritten message, "Rich, so true," with an arrow pointing at the title and an enthusiastic autograph from the president.
See? He doesn't hate everyone. He likes the people that like him. And this isn't actually that uncommon for Trump. He has for years mailed journalists articles back to them with comments scrawled on them, good and bad. To Washington Post writer Chris Cillizza, who wrote an article praising Trump for engaging with the press more than the other candidates during the campaign, Trump wrote, "Chris, wow, you have come a long way. I am making progress. Thanks." On the flip side, back in 2011, when Trump backed out of moderating a Republican primary debate after not enough candidates agreed to participate, Trump mailed Yahoo reporter Chris Moody a printout of his article with the commentary, "Chris, bad reporting, bad reporter."
He would have made a great middle school teacher. Circle the grade, make the comments about what? Yeah.
Bad essay.
Needs more commas.
Why don't you write an essay about how great a teacher I am?
Anyways, back to that Rich Lowry article that Trump loves so much, though. It's unclear what he actually would love about it, aside from the title, "There is only Trump." Literally, the first sentence calls Trump an unpopular president, and the rest of the article is about how Republican Ed Gillespie tried his best to distance himself from Trump in the Virginia governor's race, but still lost because people voted for his opponent as a big fuck you to Trump. Now, Rich Lowry, despite being a conservative writer, isn't a diehard Trump fan, and has spoken and written repeatedly about the potential problems Trump has created for his party's long-term future.
So, first off, Trump clearly didn't read that article beyond the headline. There's no way. He spent more time tearing out the page and scrawling his feedback on it than he did reading it. Secondly, though, this is an interesting insight into the minds of people who unironically shout fake news on a regular basis. Not only do they disagree with just about any news that contradicts their own existing beliefs, they also don't actually even fucking read the news beyond the headlines.
Why would I need to read it? I know it's fake.
So it's not even about this article that I disagree with is bullshit. It's this headline that I disagree with is bullshit.
Going even deeper, the fake news mentality basically assumes that those writers writing things that you disagree with are liars, simply pushing their own agenda. They're not journalists in search of the truth. They're hack frauds in search of anything that supports their ideological agenda, no matter how flimsy. And they'll probably publish those lies with zero concern for fact-checking. It's just the way things go.
Put it out there.
If only we could catch them in the act and finally expose the mainstream media's shady tactics. What if we paid someone to approach, I don't know, the Amazon Washington Post, Jeff Bezos's Amazon Washington Post? Maybe if we approached them with a totally made-up story that they would just obviously eat right up because it supports their liberal narrative.
This sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah.
Now, what's a good ongoing story that the Post is working on that we don't like because we disagree with? Oh, Roy Moore. The Washington Post talked to a bunch of women claiming Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore had harassed or molested them when they were underage or barely legal. But those women are probably just a bunch of attention-seeking liars who the Post believe because they're bad journalists. And now, because of their fake news, is looking like a goddamn Democrat. Might actually win a Senate seat in Alabama.
Wow. Okay, great. So here's the plan. We pay some woman to call up the Washington Post and tell them that she was molested by Roy Moore. assuming the Post is as crooked and as stupid as we think they are, they'll run the story and then, aha! Gotcha! We just revealed the truth that they published a lie. And worst case scenario, if something goes wrong, we'll have that woman who we're paying bring a hidden camera to her meetings with the reporters from the Post, and we'll have her record a bunch of proof that they're crooked liars only interested in pushing the leftist agenda instead of getting the real truth out there.
Yeah, I like this plan. And
how could this go wrong?
Thing though, guess what? We don't actually have to do this plan because someone else already did.
Oh, really?
Hey, remember James O'Keefe and Project Veritas? Well, this is the kind of shit that O'Keefe's been doing for a long time. It's his bread and butter. He uses false pretenses to arrange meetings and conversations with entities that he opposes politically, and he secretly records the meetings, later releasing trimmed-down versions of those conversations in order to discredit or expose his targets.
He first gained notoriety back in 2009 when he and an associate posed as a pimp and a prostitute and visited several offices of ACORN, the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now. In the videos released of these interactions, O'Keefe and his associate solicited ACORN employees for advice about how to avoid being arrested for tax evasion, human trafficking, and child prostitution. And a lot of the responses from ACORN employees implied they were totally cool with providing this advice.
So the whole thing, of course, it blew up in the news. It led to ACORN losing federal funding and soon shutting down completely after 40 years. But then, once the courts and the press actually got their hands on the unedited footage from the encounters, it turned out it had all been heavily edited. Oh, and also, it turned out that the ACORN employees that were caught on tape had all called the cops immediately after their conversations. Ooh. One of those employees even successfully sued O'Keefe for $100,000, and multiple government agencies eventually issued reports clearing ACORN of any wrongdoing and only criticizing them for some poor management. But too little, too late. They were gone.
It's like when they planted the person in mosques, and they were like, hey, you should go to mosques and tell them that you're an extremist, and that you should have some extremist ideas and try to recruit them. And then everyone from the mosque just called the FBI on the guy. Like, hey, this guy's a fucking maniac.
Yeah.
Anyways, O'Keefe tried the same thing later against NPR, having two people pose as representatives for a made-up Muslim charity and meet with NPR's head of fundraising. In the released video, again, heavily edited, Schiller appears to be totally okay with the fake charity's ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. He calls Tea Party Republicans racist, and he says NPR doesn't actually need federal funding. Again, lots of controversy erupted. People resigned from their jobs at NPR, and then once the raw footage was out there, everyone, including the conservative outlets like The Blaze, realized that the initial video had been heavily edited and misleading on purpose to reflect very poorly on NPR.
O'Keefe has also been involved in various other similar stunts over the years, including one that got him and two other associates arrested in Louisiana, and another where he attempted to prank a CNN reporter by luring her onto a boat to seduce her. Funny. But his most recent expose before this current one was over the summer when Project Veritas released 3 videos proving, once and for all, that the whole Trump-Russia collusion scandal was bullshit.
The proof? An associate producer for CNN Health was caught on camera saying he thought the Russia thing could be bullshit because they didn't have any big proof at the moment.
Bam.
Even worse, CNN reporter Van Jones was filmed telling a Project Veritas operative who camped out outside CNN that the Russia thing was a nothing burger. And finally, a third video showed a young CNN associate producer saying that American voters are stupid as shit and saying that journalists in general think Donald Trump is an unqualified clown. I support that.
Checkmate, libs.
I mean, I'll say it. Take this video of me and replay it.
I think most people would agree that voters are dumb.
And, well, some, maybe a lot of voters are dumb, and Donald Trump is, I think, unqualified.
Yeah, I mean, surprise, guys. That's my opinion. But yeah,
But I don't work for CNN.
Yeah, I don't work for CNN
I don't work for
either.
CNN. And I'm not a journalist.
But yeah, I mean, so interpreting these videos to mean that the Russia scandal itself was a complete and utter hoax and that CNN is a liberal cesspool, it requires you to completely forget that the Russia scandal isn't just a CNN story and didn't even originate at CNN, and that CNN's coverage of it is like 95% based on journalism from outside sources like The Times, The Post, and so on. Also, this is gonna blow your fucking mind right now, but news organizations are made up of many employees. Each one a person capable of forming their own opinions, which may or may not align with their dozens or hundreds or thousands of other coworkers.
Again, though, it was still a bad look for CNN, and people who'd already decided that CNN was liberal trash got some self-affirming proof that they were right all along. And I guess we should chime in here and say that we're not especially fond of 24-hour American cable and TV news in general. We're not here to defend CNN as some bastion of great journalism. It's 90% a commentary network.
Yeah.
Kind of like we are commentating on the news. CNN International, different story.
Great
Although
stuff.
they got bashed this week by Trump too.
Well, sorry, Christian.
If it were up to us, all TV news would be dry and boring and factual, like BBC or CNN International or France 24 or Reuters.
Al Jazeera is pretty good. The only thing they're not good at is reporting on things that happen in their own country.
Yeah. Everything else,
But
sure.
they do a great job reporting on everyone else. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, ratings drive everything in this country, so TV news is as much about a spectacle as it is about facts, and it's a lot of arguing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of shows bringing on either reaffirming viewpoints you already have, or bringing on people to argue with, or in the case of something like Tucker Carlson, bringing on someone who has a different viewpoint and then just talking over them the entire time. Anytime they try to say anything, he just goes, bah, 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 bah.
He learned it from the best.
Yeah.
Bill O'Reilly. He didn't just take his seat, he took the mantle. Cut his mic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, our lukewarm opinion of 24-hour American TV news, that's why we prefer more old-school print media like the Washington Post, for example, which has been around for 139 years, probably because they're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah.
They will not, unfortunately, be receiving the fake news trophy that Donald Trump has been offered up, and this latest Project Veritas stunt is an example of why. A few weeks back, right as the Washington Post and other outlets were publishing stories in which women claimed Roy Moore had assaulted them while they were teens, a woman named Jamie Phillips reached out to Post writer Beth Reinhard via email saying, quote, Roy Moore in Alabama. I might know something, but I need to keep myself safe. How do we do this?
Ooh. So Reinhard moved the conversation along, talking to Phillips on the phone and via an encrypted text app, and they arranged to meet during Thanksgiving week at a mall food court in Virginia, the safest place of all. At that meeting, Phillips told Reinhard that while attending a church youth group in Alabama in 1992, when she was just 15 years old, County Judge Roy Moore had a secret sexual relationship with her, during which she became pregnant. And she said Moore had talked her into getting an abortion and personally drove her to Mississippi to get it. Oh, and she also repeatedly asked Reinhard to promise that Roy Moore would lose his election if she publicly came forward with her claims. You gotta tell me right now, you reporter from a newspaper, that this man will lose the election based on my testimony.
Yeah, so Reinhard explained that, sorry lady, unfortunately there's no way to predict the impact of a news story, and also, we're gonna need to fact check some of these claims before reporting on it. So, they were going to need Phillips to provide documentation corroborating or supporting her story, her identity.
Wait. You mean what I've just told you isn't enough?
Come on.
You need proof?
Yeah. And it's literally just like, you are who you say you are. You were in Alabama at the time. Like, pretty basic shit. Mm-hmm. She's like, whoa. So yeah, later that day, Phillips texted Reinhardt and said, I just don't feel convinced that I should come forward now. And she suggested that she should maybe talk to a different Washington Post reporter, maybe Stephanie McCrummen, another one of the writers who had been writing about the Roy Moore allegations.
Meanwhile, Reinhardt started fact-checking Phillips' story and came across some weird inconsistencies. Phillips had said she only lived in Alabama for a few months as a teenager in 1992, yet her cell phone number had an Alabama area code.
She must have locked that one down early.
Oh, it's a very
Zach Morris walking around.
Very cool looking set of 3 numbers. I gotta get it. Phillips claimed to work at a mortgage lender in Westchester, New York, but when Reinhard called that company, they said no one named Jamie Phillips worked there. And then a researcher for the paper fired up Google.com and typed in Jamie Phillips. About 5 seconds later, she was looking at a GoFundMe page created on May 29th by someone named Jamie Phillips of Atlanta who was looking to raise money to relocate to New York.
I'm moving to New York. I've accepted a job to work in the conservative media movement to combat the lies and deceit, that's how she spelled it, of the liberal MSM mainstream media. I'll be using my skills as a researcher and fact checker to help our movement. I was laid off from my mortgage job a few months ago and came across the opportunity to change my career path. Woo! Also, one of the only 2 donations to that page to this Jamie Phillips, who could be any Jamie Phillips, it was from someone with the same name as the daughter of the Washington Post, Jamie Phillips. So that's odd. Also, turns out Project Veritas had posted a job listing to its Facebook page back in March looking for 12 new undercover reporters who would adopt an alias persona, gain access to an identified person of interest, and persuade that person to reveal information.
Our alias budget is gone. It's been depleted. Certainly a series of strange coincidences, obviously. I mean, Google.com, liberal website.
True. They should have binged it.
That's what yeah, you could have been looking at porn thumbnails and everything while you're doing it. Anyways, it's probably worth clarifying that it's just a strange series of coincidences. Obviously. One day after Phillips' meeting with Reinhardt, she agreed to meet with Stephanie McCrummen, again at a mall in Virginia. When McCrummen arrived, Phillips was already seated with her purse on the table. When McCrummen put her purse on the table to block a potential hidden camera, Phillips moved her purse. Not really obvious, I guess. Meanwhile, one table over, two Post reporters were seated with their own hidden camera.
So yeah, these next 20 or so minutes that we're about to talk about, they're all available to listen to and watch uncut if you haven't hit your cringe quota for today.
I really couldn't get through it.
I watched it and it was
cringy.
Fucking riveting.
I read the transcript and that was enough for me. I can't watch people getting themselves in situations.
I love it. So anyway, Phillips asked McCrummen to again assure her that this article would result in Roy Moore losing his election. McCrummen just avoided the question altogether, and she pressed for more details about the story. Phillips continued just throwing out bait. She was complaining about Donald Trump endorsing Moore and complaining that Roy Moore's still up for election, basically just looking for Washington Post to be like, yeah, fuck Roy Moore, but no dice. McCrummen then asked to verify Phillips' identity with a driver's license, and she obliged, showing McCrummen her Georgia ID. Then McCrummen asked about the GoFundMe page created back in May by Jamie Phillips of Atlanta, Georgia, which she had printed out and brought with her to the meeting. She then notified Phillips that she was being recorded right now.
It's just so funny. Am I being detained? That would be great if she was like thinking she was getting arrested at the time or something.
There's a psychological term for this, but it's like a lot of stupid people just assume everyone's stupid.
Like me, thinking all voters are stupid. Phillips explained that she was looking to take a job in New York with the Daily Caller last summer, but it fell through. Asked who at the Daily Caller she had interviewed with, she replied, Kathy Johnson.
George Carpet.
His name's George Glass, and he goes to a different school. Her name's Kathy Johnson, and she works for a different conservative media outlet. McCrummen then asked, since that job had fallen through, and since calls to the mortgage company she'd claimed to work at had been a dead end, where did she currently work? Phillips pulled the classic, did you talk to the corporate office? She pulled that tactic, claiming she actually worked remotely for the branch in Atlanta. Phillips then suddenly decided she no longer wanted to go through the article and she left.
Well, anyway, the Post later reached out to the Daily Caller to just cover that base, and they said no one named Kathy Johnson works there, and there were no records of Jamie Phillips ever interviewing for a job there. On Monday, the Post sent reporters to Project Veritas' office in New York, and they observed Jamie Phillips arriving there at her job in her car and entering the office.
It's just me, not covering up my name or my tracks, walking directly into the building that is
I
Project
thought this
Veritas.
was Arby's.
What? Oh, wait, you mean this isn't the Daily Caller?
I'm looking for Kathy Johnson of the Daily.
Oh, you got me.
So
put no care into any kind of cover-up.
None. They assume everyone's as stupid as them.
She needs to get fired at the very least from being an undercover reporter because she's terrible at it.
Yeah, she's not good at that.
All right, for our first mission, you're gonna prove yourself by going undercover to nail the Washington Post.
I mean, I'd love to have. I'd love to be in Atlanta back when she was working as a mortgage lender, because she probably was just giving away the best deals.
Oh yeah. Well, I tried
3%
to get 3%
fixed rate on a 30-year. Sounds great to me.
Sucker. I told them 3% would be fine after a lot of negotiating, and they came back with 1%, and I was like, all right.
But so those Post reporters who saw her go to her job at Project Veritas, they stayed there, and they later approached James O'Keefe himself as he walked out of the office with his co-worker Robert J. Halderman, who he's known for previously being convicted of extortion for trying to blackmail David Letterman a few years back.
Did you put in here how he got caught?
I don't remember. It was
Oh
something
my God,
stupid.
because you're gonna love it. It's the whole thing's just like a bumbling operation. He got caught because they issued a fake check for $2 million to complete
the extortion?
to complete the blackmail, and he went to the bank and was like, "Hi, I'd like to cash my $2 million check," and the cops were there within minutes to arrest him. Hi there, I'd like to cash
We've
this
got
check
top
for
men working on
$2
it.
million.
So yeah, that guy was with him and James O'Keefe, real mind trust. They were walking out of the office together to go to a meeting or something. Washington Post reporter Aaron Davis repeatedly asked O'Keefe if Jamie Phillips worked for Project Veritas. A simple yes or no question, but O'Keefe repeatedly refused to answer. Said he was real busy. He instead insisted that they call the office and make an appointment.
Talk to my secretary, Kathy Johnson.
Kathy Johnson.
So anyways, the Post reporters, they did call.
Yeah.
And came back a few hours later. Except when they arrived this time, O'Keefe had his own microphone and cameraman and was intending to interview the Post. The old switcheroo.
No, it's my interview.
And now
No,
who's
it's
in
mine.
charge? Yeah, Davis continued to press for an answer about Jamie Phillips, but got nothing, finally deciding to leave when they realized they were getting nowhere with this. The Post published their full, unedited angle of the conversation, and Project Veritas published their version with all of Aaron Davis's unanswered questions edited out, instead appearing to show the Post reporters immediately leaving as soon as truth warrior James O'Keefe unsheathed his microphone of truth.
Oh, God. He's got the microphone. Get in the car and drive back to D.C.
That microphone that makes it so that I can't lie about my liberal agenda.
Project Veritas!
And yes, we did promise her that Roy Moore would get elected. Or wouldn't get elected.
Oh, God.
Oh, you got me,
The
okay?
microphone of truth. So yeah, we highly, highly recommend actually just watching both of those videos, the Washington Post version and the Veritas version, just to get a first-hand understanding of how absolutely manipulative Project Veritas' videos can be. It's a real easy example. It'll take 10 minutes of your time. It's a very short interaction, but when you remove a whole section from it, it feels very different. Huh. Anyway, the Post, having, at this point, a pretty good grasp of what was going on in this whole thing, they published their coverage of lying Jamie Phillips and her connection to Project Veritas on Monday. And because they're actual journalists, they even issued a statement explaining why, in this case, they were publishing details of off-the-record conversations.
Washington Post executive editor Marty Barron said, quote, "We always honor off-the-record agreements when they're entered into in good faith, but this so-called off-the-record conversation was the essence of a scheme to deceive and embarrass us. The intent by Project Veritas clearly was to publicize this conversation if we fell for the trap. Because of our customary journalistic rigor, we weren't fooled, and we can't honor an off-the-record agreement that was solicited in maliciously bad faith." And now that guy, Marty Barron, by the way, was played by Liev Schreiber in the movie Spotlight, which depicted his work at the previous job running the Boston Globe and uncovering a sexual abuse scandal and a corruption scandal in the Boston Catholic Church. I think this is real news.
he
He might know what he's doing.
He might know a thing or two about me.
I don't know, but where's the James O'Keefe movie, though?
It's coming. Well, he'll just have to publish it
Starring
himself.
Chris Klein as James O'Keefe.
Can't tell them apart.
Yeah.
So anyway, fellow Real News investigative journalist James O'Keefe, he wasn't going to give the crooked MSM the last word. So in rebuttal, he published his own video exposing the Washington Post. Checkmate, libs. And that video is, surprise, another hidden camera video of one of his goons talking to a Washington Post employee at like a bar or restaurant or some shit. In it, Washington Post national security correspondent Dan Lamothe reveals the Post's hidden agenda. And it's apparently the bombshell top secret fact that legitimate newspapers have different sections like news, editorial, opinion, and analysis that all do specific things from a specific point of view. Like the fact that opinion writers have opinions, and editorials are written by the editor and are opinionated, and news stories end up on the cover if they're about something people are interested in knowing about, and they end up on the inside if they're not interested in. This is fucking mind-blowing, James. Thank you.
Wow, I'm glad we all know that now.
I've seen the light.
It's almost like if anyone at any point picked up a newspaper and read it, they would see the different sections.
This is what I'm saying. This is from at the beginning. We were like, these people are only reading the fucking titles, and I've gone after you folks watching this who send me articles all the time on Twitter and shit, and like, I don't think this article is what you said it is.
Yeah.
I think you only read
There
the
was someone
title.
today who was
It's a big problem.
It was something stupid, and it was like right there in the brackets on the post. I forget which outlet it was. I think it was New York Times or Washington Post, where it was like, opinion, this, and this. It's like, yes, that is a person who is either a freelancer, full-time reporter, or a person writing an article that has an opinion and is voicing it.
That's the purpose
It's
of it.
not a journalistic piece of fact. Because it's right there, it says opinion.
It's sort of like how you don't read about sports
In
in the movie section.
Yeah.
There's sections in newspapers and labels
I don't know how to
tell
tell the
you which
difference.
section you're reading. Anyway,
Yeah.
as fun as it is to see liars get exposed, it's also important to step back and remember that this wasn't just about discrediting the Washington Post, it was about discrediting all of their coverage of the fucked up allegations against Roy Moore, and by extension, discrediting the women who have come forward to level those accusations. Women who actually did go through all the thorough fact-checking and vetting that this lying woman was barely subjected to.
Yeah.
At this point, it's almost certain that Roy Moore is a fucking child molester, and even his fellow Republican politicians have disavowed him. And despite all of that, Project Veritas tried to conduct a whole fucking operation around helping a fucking child molester get elected to the Senate, because the only alternative to that would be some Democrat who successfully prosecuted the Ku Klux Klan.
Lame.
And we couldn't have that.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it proves that outlets are doing their due diligence with collecting the news in a fair and balanced way.
Yeah. Or
Making sure that they
fact
double check
Yeah.
and fact check. And, yeah, it's just kind of sad. It's just kind of real
It's,
sad.
yeah,
Fact checking.
fact checking. Journalistic integrity.
It backfired, really, in their
Yeah.
face. Because it actually further proved that the allegations against Roy Moore were accurate.
Yeah. Also, fighting fake news with fake news. Interesting strategy. Let's see how that works.
Well, depending on people's political biases, they're going to believe one or the other.
Half these people can't be saved. Let them burn.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Watch a new episode of, we did the recap on the YouTube drama that's going down with the Adpocalypse right now. And we also did a live stream where we talked about, fuck did we talk about? Oh, gaming, like a whole gaming thing about these stupid loot boxes and shit. Hey, you'll watch it.
May you live in interesting times.